Welcome back students in the second part of this series. Here I am going to discuss about a pinhole camera and some things related to shadows. So let's start. A pinhole camera is a very simple optical instrument which you can see in a physics lab. It is consist of a tiny aperture or a pinhole. It is a light-proof box. A pinhole camera used to work on the principle of the rectilinear propagation of light. Let's understand how a pinhole camera can use to form a real image with an animated video. A pinhole camera consists of a box with a small hole in a metal plate at one end and a screen of tracing paper or frosted glass at the other end. If the camera is pointed towards a tree, an inverted diminished image of the tree is formed on the screen. As shown here, light rays from the top of the tree A travel in a straight line and falls at X on the screen. Rays from the bottom of the tree B falls at Y. Thus, XY is the diminished inverted image of the tree on the screen. If the screen is replaced by a photographic film, a photograph of the tree can be taken. Now, let's see some of the properties of the image formed by a pinhole camera. The image formed by a pinhole camera used to be real, inverted, and smaller in size. Now let's discuss about shadows. How you can define a shadow. Shadow can be said to be as a dark patch which used to cause when the light rays get stopped by any body, mostly opaque objects. Shadows can be dark or faint. The nature of the shadow depends on the object. Opaque objects stop the light completely, thus it causes a dark shadow. Whereas when we see for a translucent body, then it can allow a little bit of light rays to pass through it. Thus, it doesn't causes a complete dark shadow. Whereas for a transparent object, we observe that there is no shadow been formed with it because most of the light rays can pass through it. Now, let's discuss the parts of a shadow. A shadow can be divided into three parts as umbra, penumbra, and antumbra. The umbra is the innermost and the darkest part of a shadow. Penumbra is the region in which only a portion of light source is blocked by the object, whereas antumbra is the region of darkness which occurs when an object appears to completely cover the source of light except for a thin circle. Let's understand more about all these kinds of shadow with an animated video. When there is some obstruction in the path of light, we see a shadow. Light is always needed for a shadow to form. Shadows can never form in total darkness. Let's see how a shadow is formed. If an opaque body is placed in the path of light, the light cannot pass through it. Here you can see that rays are stopped from going to the other side of the opaque body. Thus, the space behind the body does not receive any light from the source. The space behind the opaque object where the light cannot reach is called a shadow. Thus, shadows are formed when light is stopped by an object, mostly an opaque object. As we had discussed earlier, an opaque object can cast a dark shadow, a translucent object can cast a faint shadow, whereas a transparent object casts no shadows. Shadows used to form because light travels in straight lines. If the source of light is very small, that is, a point source, then a sharp, well-defined image is formed on the screen. When the source of light is wide, two shadows can be seen. One shadow is completely dark called the umbra in the center, and the other is partial shadow called the penumbra surrounding it. Notice that umbra does not receive any light from any portion of the source, whereas the penumbra receives light from a part of the source. Shadows are everywhere. Wherever you see light, you can find shadow. It used to change its shape and size with respect to the position of the object and the source of light. Our ancestors had used this phenomena to find out time under the daylight through an instrument called sundial. Shadows used to form in space too. It is called eclipse. Solar eclipse or the lunar eclipse are the two very common eclipses which we can see from Earth. A solar eclipse occurs when the moon passes between the sun and Earth, and the moon fully or partially blocks the sun. This can happen only at the new moon. During this time, the sun and the moon are in an alignment when seen from the Earth. Some interesting facts related to the solar eclipse. A part of Earth which is in the umbra region experiences a total solar eclipse. The part in the penumbra region experiences a partial solar eclipse. An annual solar eclipse occurs when the moon covers the sun's center portion, leaving the sun's visible outer edge or called as ring of fire. The longest recorded duration of the solar eclipse is 7.5 minutes. The maximum number of solar eclipses possible in a year are 5. A solar eclipse should not be visible or viewed directly through our naked eyes because it can be very dangerous. Lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipse is again a kind of eclipse which we experience in our solar system, but due to the change in the position of the Earth and Moon. A lunar eclipse occurs when the Earth comes in the between of Moon and Sun. The Moon should be directly behind the Earth. The Sun, Earth and the Moon are aligned exactly or very closely in a straight line. Hence, the lunar eclipse can only occur at the night of full moon. Some interesting facts related to the lunar eclipse. Depending on whether the moon is in the amber or the penumbra region, a partial or total lunar eclipse can occur. The total lunar eclipse may last for around 1 hour and 40 minutes. The moon does not become completely dark during the total lunar eclipse.